unless we follow the advice.
Sadiq Khan, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. Sadiq Khan there. Now, across the BBC, we're bringing you the latest developments on the coronavirus outbreak. There's a special coronavirus newscast podcast, and of course, you can always find the latest information on the BBC News app.
Also our density. What's really important is all of us follow the advice. So you'll see from Monday, fewer trains coming into London and leaving London, but also we are running a weekend service during the course of the week. It is important for critical workers to get around our city and get around the country. That's just for critical workers. Nobody else should be using public transport, and it's really important we all follow the advice. It's there for a reason, and these are extraordinary times. And can I just be clear? The numbers we're talking about, the 233 people who've died, they're not just numbers, they're people who have died. These are families who are grieving. That number is going to go higher and quicker unless we follow the advice.
Sadiq Khan, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us today. App and on our website. The writer and the broadcaster Stephen Fry is one of the most popular cultural figures in the country. He's also spoken openly about his own struggle with depression, and he is president of Mind. We're going through a time which is, for a lot of people, frankly, terrifying, and which puts a particular burden on people told to self-isolate by themselves. Stephen joins me now from his home in Norfolk. Stephen Fry, welcome. How are you coping? How are you managing out there in Norfolk?
Well, very well. We're very lucky to be here. There's fresh air, and we're staying at home, of course, and just hunkered down like everybody else. It's a tricky time for everybody, and I'm fully aware of how lucky I am to have a house in the country and to be safe. And it's not easy for anybody. The most important thing to remember is that nobody's an expert. And I suppose if there's a message to be had, and I'm not speaking as a health professional, obviously a mental health professional or anything else, but in my capacity such as it is as president of Mind, one of the things that's very clear is that there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress, a lot of confusion, and a lot of loneliness. And these are all very powerful triggers for other mental health episodes.
Well, I would like to get the Stephen Fry advice on some of these. So what about people who look at this huge array? They may be watching this programme or other programmes, news bulletins, reading newspapers, and it is a wall of terror coming towards them, and they feel they can't cope with what is, after all, the news. What do? Do you just simply turn it all off?
Personally, I do, yes. I think one of the things to be positive about is that self-isolation and being alone either as a family or a couple or in whatever group you are, or literally solitary, is that you have to redefine your sense of time. Time suddenly alters completely in these situations. And I think a very important idea is to draw up some sort of timetable, if you like. It can be a physical thing, it could be on the wall, it can be on a blackboard or just on a piece of paper. You can take more time to do everything, but you can also turn off the notifications on your phones and tablets and other devices so that you're not bombarded by headlines. Believe me, if anything important, really important happens, you'll find out about it. Decide on a time to look in at the news, maybe, I don't know, 11 in the morning and then 3 in the afternoon, or for one of the press conferences, and last thing at night if you want to. But there's so much noise. Everybody wants to have a point of view. Everybody wants either to show how splendid they are or to show how awful the world is, and people want to paint a picture of an apocalypse. But the fact is, if you listen to the scientific advisors, they almost always begin every sentence with, we think, it's possible, maybe, perhaps, we don't know, but. That's how experts talk, people who really understand it.
So we have to live with uncertainty. We all have to get to know.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's anxious making to some extent, but what it allows you to do is to blank out all those people who claim to know what's going on. But all those people who said there's going to be the army in London in 2 days, people who say, I've got a friend who works in government who ...
We've all met
It's
them.
almost always nonsense. And it proliferates online, and it's a kind of virus in itself. Anxiety and stress are almost as virulent as this awful coronavirus. And so if people just if they can calm down by by taking a deep breath and allowing time to take on a different dimension, taking more time to do everything, as I say, whether it's cleaning your teeth in the morning, laying your clothes out, just making a process of it. And then obviously go online, mind.org.uk. We have a list of things that address some of the most obvious and common features that alarm people.
A lot of people are self-isolating or about to self-isolate and simply wonder how to get through the day. They probably have an image of Stephen Fry leafing out some Greek myths in the original Greek and possibly working his way through Wagner. What advice do you have for those of us who are not that way inclined? I mean, Voltaire said, cultivate your gardens. If you've got a garden, it seems a good thing to be doing. What do you think?
Certainly, yes, and even if it's just a question of a few pot plants and bulbs, if you can, inside. But yeah, no, actually, I'm reading P.G. Wodehouse and Agatha Christie at the moment. That seems to me somehow to speak to my soul. And I've gone online to reacquaint myself with calligraphy. You can go, YouTube and various other sources have people who will, for free, teach you how to shape letters. And you can slowly get out a pen or a pencil and do things like that.
Learn a language? That'd be...
And of course, a language, Esperanto, I'm thinking of just for fun. But it is, nothing's in a hurry. And cooking, and so even cooking the smallest thing now, I prep it. I put little pots and I do the garlic in one little pot, you know, just like a TV chef. It's preposterous, but it just slows my life down and stops me getting too anxious or too nervous.
Even in a slowed down world, I'm afraid we have run out of time. Stephen Fry, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now then, a look at what's coming up on BBC One later this morning.
Join us. Are there deal breakers in religion? See you at 10:45 on BBC One.
My final guest this morning is the Communities and Housing Secretary, Robert Jenrick. He's written this morning asking 1.5 million people to stay at home for the next 12 weeks, and he joins me now. Robert Jenrick, first of all, who are these people you're writing to and what are you telling them?
Well, good morning. We've taken a further significant step, as you've said, and the Chief Medical Officer, the NHS and local GPs have helped us to identify 1.5 million individuals who, for specific clinical reasons, underlying health conditions, are particularly at high risk of coronavirus. And these individuals will now receive a letter from the NHS in the coming days, giving them specific guidance and asking them as soon as possible to stay at home, potentially for 12 weeks or more.
Now, we've all read an awful lot about stockpiling and observed it as well across Britain. In effect, a form of rationing. What's the case against that?
Well, look, there are two issues here. Today, we're contacting the 1.5 million people who, for specific clinical reasons, will need to stay at home. Many of those people will be looked after by their friends, family and neighbours, but where they won't be able to do that, and undoubtedly there will be some people who are isolated and lonely and who don't have that support network around them, we're going to be creating a big national effort to help those individuals.
And lots of people want to behave well, but that kind of primal instinct when they get into the supermarket and they're scared about running out of food kicks in. So for all those people, can you guarantee us that there will be enough food in the shops to keep us eating through the rest of this year?
Yes. The food sector have been very clear. They're very resilient. They'll be able to ramp up supply. They're used to dealing with peaks, ones that they plan for, like Christmas, for example. There have been shortages. We've all seen it in the supermarkets in the last few weeks, but they're preparing to get more food and supplies onto the shelves. But they do need our help as well, so that when we go to the supermarkets, we do behave responsibly. And I fully support those measures, but this is on all of us. We all need to behave responsibly.
This is on all of us. Robert Jenrick, thanks very much indeed for joining us this morning, and thanks to all my guests, and thanks, of course, to you for watching.